Hello, everybody. Welcome to MythTalk. My name is Corey Kemper. I am the creative director for Mythboard Entertainment. We are currently working on our first title, Conquest of Eldinar, and we are here to talk to you guys today about some interesting things.
Yes, and my name is Ziad Kadri. I am the technical lead slash CTO, I guess, at this point, of MythWord Entertainment. Yes, we are definitely going to talk about some interesting things today.
All right, well, let's get started. Let's get right into it then. I was watching the video today from. I have to look this guy up real quick because I got to make sure that I am. Let me see. AI News, and I bet you he'll be at the top because he does like all of them. Yep, there he is. Matt Wolf. Matt Wolf.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yep.
Glorious beard, nice hair, cool guy.
Agreed.
Um,
Yes.
so I watched his latest thing today, and where the AI woman was like, she was like reading a bedtime story to people or whatever, and I think it was while I was at the gym, I was like going down this mental rabbit hole where it was like, shit, like what if in a couple of years I have like an earbud in or like Google Glasses or something, and I have like an AI I could name it. If I did have an AI, by the way, I would totally name him something from Conquest of Eldinar. I'd probably name him like Zaranax or something, which is the Dragonics, the king for the Dragonics. So I'd be like, Zaranax, like how's what's traffic looking like today? And I want him to talk like a dragonkin as well. By the way, like I want full like
Of course.
customize their voice or whatever. I'd be like, okay, great. What I would love is I was like, what if I could just I program him to like the same things that I like, have like similar tastes. Like, hey, Zaranax, go read up or like familiarize yourself with Warcraft and Lord of the Rings and Fable and Jurassic Park or whatever the things I like are. Like, go familiarize
Yeah.
yourself so that we both have like similar opinions, and he like
Mm-hmm.
understands like what I'm aiming at to produce. He understands like my quality standards, and I could get him to like criticize my work. Because I guess like that's the thing. That's the thing that blew my mind, right? Is right before we started this podcast, you showed me the new ChatGPT thing where you can talk to the voice, and
Yeah.
the the thing that blows my mind about that is this idea of an opinion or like a personality. An opinion is something to me that's like distinctly human. Like you have to
Mm-hmm.
have like memories and experience, and a bias in order to give an opinion. And I feel like that's the thing that was so. Um, that's how you can really tell that something's a robot is because it doesn't have an opinion. Like it doesn't really have an agenda or an opinion or whatever. Like you just, hey, ChatGPT, pump me out a list of game development, whatever, blah 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 blah, and it'll poop out a list for you. But it doesn't like it's not going to ask you about you because it doesn't care. But that bot right there was like, how's it going? Like tell me about your day. Tell me about like your stresses and your worries. And it's like trying to like ask me, and it's like referring back to previous conversations that we had. Well, what about earlier though when you said this? And I'm like, I was scared. I was like, um, I feel the need to like speak to you politely because like my human instincts are kicking in, and it's like a person is talking to me right now and she's being polite, but she's also kind of making me feel uncomfortable. So I kind of want to like eject from but it's funny, right? Because I could really just be a total dick and be like, piss off or whatever, like go away. But I don't want to, even though it doesn't matter because it's not real. It's kind of mind blowing. What was your first conversation like when you tried it?
I mean, with these kind of things, I always like say the silliest things possible to kind of see how it's going to handle it, right? So I don't want
Okay.
to say exactly what I said, but it handled it pretty well, right? Which was surprising and was giving me advice and all that kind of stuff. It was goofy stuff. It
Yeah.
wasn't anything bad.
Yeah.
But so that was like, well, it wasn't like exactly like extremely mind blowing because
Hmm.
ChatGPT has been able to do that. It was
Yeah.
just that tonality and just the way the words were spoken, like it was
Yeah.
spoken by a person. Because like if you think of like a robot voice, it's like, "Hi, I am a robot," or whatever. That's
Hmm.
the standard that we've been
Yeah.
thinking about, and we've been like, what feels like in the past few years, very quickly, kind of like, flying away from that and kind of to things. And this is
Yeah.
the best I've seen it.
Oh,
And we've
absolutely.
seen things like when we messed around with like the kind of transcription service, like 11 Laps and all that kind of stuff, where you can like give it a
Mm-hmm.
sentence and say, hey, say it with this voice or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that was like really good. And I'm like, wow, I knew that that's going to go into these large language models and all that. But I think it's important to remember that these large language models at the end, like, they don't have an opinion. They don't have any of
Yeah,
that.
I know they
Because,
do, but they're getting good at like maneuvering human psychology, right? To an extent, it has to be in order to
yeah,
say the things that it's saying.
yeah. Cause what it is good at, it's at the end of the day, it's just a prediction algorithm. Is all it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just it predicts 3 words or whatever the context is, right? And then it's just what will be the best word to say next based on the system message and based on whatever, right? And for it to fit that context or to deliver whatever like the intention here is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good at mimicking us, right? And that's is getting better and better, right? Because it's good at mimicking a certain kind of person that would ask you questions and would do that and would do this, you know. And the better it is getting at that, the more we're like mind blown. But there is no reasoning or thinking or any of that
Yeah.
necessarily that's going behind it. Doesn't make it any less freaky or any less crazy, you know. It's still
Mm-hmm.
very mind blowing that we've gotten to this point so far. But I I don't know how far we can go with this kind of technology or this way of doing things. I'm assuming we still haven't like scratched the surface and we're gonna go a lot further, especially how like the speed of development of that. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how it's going. And the second thing that I have here as well
Mm-hmm.
is that it I feel like that the biggest battle and kind of like something that you said here is like, well, I wanted to read this book and this and kind of know this about me or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what like the companies are battling on is that the context windows, right? Which is like how many tokens, which tokens are not technically words, but
Yeah.
like a comma could be a token. I don't know exactly how they're calculated, but I think the latest Google, I don't know if you watched the Google keynote, but they also done
I
some
heard about
crazy
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should watch that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like as an example that they had there is they had like I forgot what the app was called, the Project Astra or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, they were like they had a camera on and the camera just like was scanning through the room.
Yep.
And then it asked them like, "Oh, have you seen my glasses or whatever?" And they was like, "Yeah, I saw it earlier. It was sitting next to the whatever, right?" And but anyways, that's crazy, right? And again, that's the whole context window thing, right? The maximum now is 2 million tokens, which is the kind of like the new models that Google are putting out, which is pretty like it's a pretty large number. Like they said, it's a few hours of video. Go for it.
So that's essentially, is that memory? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Like,
it's how when it's answering a question,
yeah.
like that question, how much of information that you gave it is that answer based on, all right? So in the context of like what happened to you, right? You wrote a bunch of stuff, a bunch of text to it, and then
Mm-hmm.
you switched to voice mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So remember that text. It's only that one chat. It didn't access the other chats, but that one chat, you've asked the stuff about podcasts, whatever, all of that. So it had the memory of that, right?
Yeah.
So if we kind of extrapolate that out and we think of like, well, if this thing has like almost infinite context window, right? Which is what Google is saying that's the ultimate goal, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And obviously infinite is not possible, but you get the point. It's like an
Really
insanely
big.
large number.
Yeah.
Yes. And in that case, if it can remember everything that happened in the past 5 years and it can recall it perfectly or whatever it is, and it's like watching things and all of that, like imagine having glasses of that and it's remembering everything, right? Then you'll never lose your keys again, right? Because it will remember exactly when you dropped it. Or oh, I heard him drop when you were laying on the bed at 6:33, you know, and I heard him clanking. You know, I'm pretty sure that hit your bed, buddy, or whatever, you know. So I feel like that will be helpful. But again, not again, but I guess the main thing is, is this technology really like are just normal people are going to have access to it and be able to have it be useful in their day-to-day life or not, which I think not, because if we, as we've seen, like if companies have the opportunity to gate things and make people pay premiums and do
Mm-hmm.
whatever and have people basically be in classes, they
Mm-hmm.
are gonna do that, right now they don't want to do that, they don't need to do that, because all they care about is they want to excite you as much as possible, because the more
Yeah.
hype and excitement there is, the more investment and money there is, right? And that's the main thing that they care about at the moment, which makes sense. That's why, like, ChatGPT is free, like the 3.5 or whatever, and
Yeah.
even the 4.0, the new model. It's they're
You want
spending
to create an
like
addict, you got to give them a
I
sample.
exactly. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on this, but
Sure.
I think the figure was that they were spending like $700,000 a day on just that, on people like running free models and like free queries and all that kind of stuff, like just chatting with it. Which I'm assuming, if that number is true, again, I don't remember the
Mm-hmm.
exact number, so don't quote me on it. But if that was true, then I'm sure it's even more now, because that was months ago, right? And that's like a lot of money to be spending, right? And but the hype is worth it, because these companies are, OpenAI is like
It's getting a lot of
very
funding,
quickly, yeah, it's
I
growing
bet.
very quickly. And Google has been like, all big companies are like fiercely competing. When I'm excited to see what Apple's gonna do, because Apple just stays quiet for like a few years whenever there's a new
Yeah.
technology, and then they drop like a bombshell. Like, they always do
Yeah.
that, but they always make it seem
You
like
know,
they invented it.
so here's my like my I'm a creative person. My brain is like running wild with imagination, and I'm sitting here
Yeah,
thinking about it like this. I think human beings are intrinsically very social creatures, and they seek out and crave the validation from their peers. You know, a wife, right? Hey, does this dress make me look big or whatever? You know, uh, or like bros might not be as transparent, but like when you're grinding that mount or whatever in World of Warcraft, or you want the coolest, baddest armor set, or you finally crack and spend money in the cash shop to make your character look like a skeleton. Like, you do these things because you want to flex on the peers, and it's all about validation. Like we do. We everybody wants to find a sense of belonging, and they want to be they want to make sure that they're in the right. And so in all of history ever, that has been something that you have to earn it. Like, you have to earn it, by
right.
extracting that validation from other people, by appeasing them, with other like different kinds of social standards or whatever. But I'm sitting here going, it's kind of like, by the way, this is what, like, low key, if you this is why what Jurassic Park is one of my favorite franchises, let alone favorite movie of all time, because it's like pretty much entirely about this conversation of Pandora's box. Like, once you open it, once you progress, once you do something revolutionary like this, there's kind of no going back, and it just kind
Right.
of continues to spiral out of control until you go from Jurassic Park 1 to Jurassic World, 6 or whatever, and dinosaurs are running all over the planet. And it's like you can trace it all back to that single moment. Um, but anyways, yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that, what if we are essentially creating a future system of validation for people based on AI? Because I'm sitting here in my mind thinking, if I teach a little voice in my head, who he's in my little earbud or something, if I teach a voice and we've spent years together, and he's been watching my life, he like knows who my family members are, he knows that I'm making a game, he knows that I love pugs, he knows when I work out, I don't know, he monitors my sleep at night or something, and when I wake up in the morning, he's like, Corey, you had some rough sleep last night or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Has something been bothering you? Because he can, like, tell if I've, like, been tossing and turning a bunch or something. You like, who knows how, if this thing is just running 24/7, and it's watching everything that I do, and it understands, because it's, like, been built to, like, understand the world around me, and it's logging all of this information. And then I start, like, asking, instead of going to my peers and asking my peers, hey, what do you think of this logo? What do you think of this piece of artwork? What do you think of this character design, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Something that you normally, right, I would have to build relationships with people, learn about people, and then, bring stuff to those people. I can just screw that, screw the middleman. I'm just going to go right to my earbud best friend, because, like, he has an intrinsic opinion that aligns with my own or whatever. And I can just ask him, and I can completely take the human element out of it. I'm not saying I would do this, but I'm saying if in 5, 6, 10 years from now, I don't even think it'll take that long, but let's say 10 years from now that this is reality, that's a hard thing not to do. It's tempting to have
Yeah.
that power. And I also thought about it you, like what if you could, I'm not saying I would do this. This is like, now we're getting all real touchy ground here, but I would imagine that depending on the sound of that voice and the
Mm-hmm.
presumed gender of that voice, that certain people could potentially build parasocial relationships with that AI that knows them
Certain
so
people.
intimately. Certain types of people, rep, if you could choose any voice in the world or whatever, maybe some dude really likes Scarlett Johansson or something because he saw her and he wants to replicate that experience, and bada boom, bada bing. There's nothing standing
Yeah,
in his way
someone
now.
who knows.
Definitely not me. I mean, gosh,
Right.
no.
You
But
would never.
no, no, no. That'd be Sydney Sweeney, obviously. Um, yeah, no. That would be terrifying. I don't think I would do it. I would almost. It's not that I wouldn't like the technology. It's that I'd be too scared of myself, like becoming reliant on it, becoming dependent on it. Maybe this is just me like being like a boomer here. But back in my day, we had to like make friends to if you want to find out if your character design is good, you have to make friends or post it online and receive the criticism. But it's like if I could just skip all of that and go ask my AI, who my AI has been trained on like good character design because he's pulling from like the breadth of human history in art or whatever, and he's like, I don't know, using algorithms or something to compare my character design versus all of these other characters, and then kind of giving me a more objective framework. In theory, that would be even better than, because you take out the human flaw of that and you have a really really like quality, unbiased, like resource, if you get what I'm saying, right? Like, is this something you would do, or do you see an error with it?
So here's a few things. So first, that
Mm-hmm.
I guess art could be objective in some sort of way, but it obviously isn't, right?
Sure.
Because it's not necessarily about what your AI would say, but I'm imagining it as in like, well, I can't answer every question that everyone asks me, right? Let's say there's a bunch of people asking me questions or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my AI could. So would you also imagine a future where you can show your art to other people's AIs instead of talking to your friends and asking them directly, everyone, right? You're asking their AIs as well, which has like their experiences and everything that they like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can do that in mass as an example. So you kind of get like a big sample size of people's AIs or whatever it is,
I see.
which I think would be interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, like at this point, if you're gonna ask your AI, and the AI is highly trained in like to judge that kind of stuff or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, objectively, then if we're being objective, just let the AI make the character. Then, like, why are you even sitting there? Right?
I
Like, there's
get.
no point of it.
You see, but that's kind of the thing here. Like, I feel like in all of this, it's not really a matter of, right. Like, it kind of like what we were talking about before. You explained it to me. Like, the
Yeah,
AI doesn't actually have an opinion. It's like,
yeah,
and I get it. I get it. Like, if I really try to detach myself from the emotions of it, and I try to look at it from a very objective perspective, it's like it's. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I talked to Brenton, and he's had this
yeah,
experience too, where we've been typing. It's something I've had to unlearn. I've been
yeah.
typing to ChatGPT before, and I've been using like proper grammar and saying hello and oh thank you so much and blah blah blah, and like I don't need to do that. Like, objectively, I'm not hurting anyone's feelings, but it's a human impulse that the more and more they work on its presentation and the more they make it feel human, the more and more I coincidentally then treat it human. Even though I don't have to, it's an impulse. And so that's what I'm kind of saying is like the logic points towards you being correct in every way. And maybe you're just more like in control of your emotions. You're like better at looking at it objective. It's like I bet you, especially like when you're a programmer and you work behind the scenes of all the ones and zeros or whatever. Like it's very easy for you to just, because you understand how it works, to just write it off. But for someone who's like me, it's like I look at like a TV, it's like I have no clue how that works. I have no clue how a TV
Mm.
works. I have no clue how the internet works. It's like a very abstract idea to me. Sure, I kind of have some general ideas, but like at the end of the day, I'm an artist. I study lines and anatomy and natural forms and color theory and hierarchies and stuff like that. But so all I hear when I see a voice like that is it's kind of like that uncanny valley thing, but it keeps getting closer and closer and closer, which makes me more and more uncomfortable because the more and more that AI, that AI, she sounded so human and was treating me human, and like it makes me feel like I'm under attack. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Now all of a sudden I feel like you're my counselor and you're like walking me through a AI traumatization session. But I'm like, something about it. I mean, it's fantastic, but something about it does make me feel uncomfortable. I feel like I'm being invaded. It's a complicated feeling to express. I don't know if you feel it, but I'd be curious to like pull more like randoms and like have them sit down and do that, and I want to see like their reaction to it. 'Cause uh, it's uncanny, not in a sense that it wasn't convincing. It's that it was so convincing, but I have like alarm bells in the back of my brain going off, going, but it's not real, but it's not real. But I'm listening to it and I'm like objectively like, but it is real, but it is real. So it's like you have these two warring sides inside of your own mind. Um, that's I would go out on a limb here and say I don't think I'm the only human being on the planet right now that's having this experience. I can't be. There must
Of
be
course.
other people out there that feel what I'm saying. It's hard to put into words, and I guess it depends on what walk of life you come from. You know? Yeah. Did you have something to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I understand like the
Mm,
creeped out feeling or whatever it is.
yeah.
Like, and again, this is like we all had that same feeling when we first just sent messages to ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
We just said anything to it and it responded so properly or whatever it is. When we're used to chatbots being like trained on a few things and being generally goofy, they're not very
Yeah.
useful, right? We had that mind blowing, like, whoa, this feels like I'm talking to a person, right? And
Hmm.
then we're having this like moment with audio as well, and that's like pretty mind blowing. But it's not perfect yet. It'll get way better or whatever it is.
It's getting
But
good. Yeah.
you know what's coming, right? Video's coming at some point, right?
Oh
Because
my
they have
god.
you saw Sora and all that,
Oh
right? So
my
they can
god.
generate videos. So I'm entirely sure that at some point you're gonna see a whole person talking to you, whatever it is, and not real, obviously, but they're very good at imitating
It's gonna be
humans, right?
even worse than what I'm doing.
Yes, it's gonna be.
Dude, get
And
my
then
live react. The day that comes, get my live reaction to it because I'm gonna start
six
freaking
months
out.
later, you're gonna hear a knock on the door, open up the door, and be like, "Hi, I'm your AI." You're like, "What?" Right? You know, it's happening. Is the thing, but the thing is, like, is that like, are the question here, are the alarm bells
Mhm.
in your head, are in my head, or in everyone's head, are they actually warranted? Does it make sense that these alarm bells are
What do
there,
you mean?
right? Like, why are we having that feeling, right? Is it like Terminator thing? It was, are we scared of like that we're doomed or whatever it is, right? Or is the fact that it's so real that it's alarming that it could like generate a lot of fake things that would be believable? Like, what is it specifically that we're scared of here, right? Is the question. I guess mostly, if most people that are asked would be either one of those two things, right? It's either
Hmm.
doomsday scenario or, well, there's, I can't believe anything now because you can just fake anything, right? And by the way, I mean, I understand that AI companies are like doing these safety measures and whatever it is and all that kind of thing,
Hmm.
but you know, it's gonna be circumvented as long as technology exists. As smart as these companies are, there are people as smart, if not smarter, that can break these or just build alternatives that use the same technology. Because the only like hurdle at the moment is just how expensive it is to train these models, because you need like thousands of GPUs or whatever it is. Someone's going to come that has enough money, or at some point in the future these technologies are not going to be as expensive. Computers in the 50s or whatever, like to get 5 megabytes of storage, that was like a massive thing, right? Which is not the case anymore. So as time progresses, we're going to see that this hardware that you're able to train these models is going to be accessible for most people. Again, models are going to get stronger, or better by then, and they're going to be trained by more expensive hardware. But anyways, point is, the safety thing is not there. So I understand why, or won't be there always, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be circumvented. So I understand people's fears about it. But I don't know. I guess the biggest concern, I would say, from my point of view, is that we've seen how technology has affected us in the past years, right? We've went from, we always, even when I was younger, right? When I would go out with my family or whatever it is, we're sitting at a table, we're talking, and even before that, it was even less that, because at least when we're going out somewhere, there might be like a TV somewhere and we're looking at it. But even before that didn't exist, right? And now, doesn't matter who I'm sitting with anywhere, we're just glued to our phones. So we've seen how like social media, which promised something that we're all going to be as connected and close together and all that kind of stuff, has had basically what seems to be at the moment the opposite effect, right? People are not as social. People don't have as many friends, don't talk to as many people on the daily and all of that, right? And that is unfortunate, to say the least, right? So this AI is promising a lot of things, promising that you're going to have this assistant or whatever it is. And that's what it's promising the people. But for the companies, it's promising that it's going to replace the people. So it's going to be able to automate a lot of process and do a lot of these things, right? And it's not just like the objective things that it's being aimed towards, but also the artsy and like the audio generation or whatever it is, and driving, there's a lot of things are being targeted by that. So it is, I guess, the true fear that we all have, in my opinion, is that we will be replaced, right? All of us. The thing, like, it doesn't seem like if you can mimic a human close enough that you're able to do the same things that a human can, then why would anyone wants to keep us around, right? That's the question. And then what's gonna happen then? That's the question.
I would say, kind of going back to what you're saying at the beginning, but I think it's like in tandem with everything you're saying. My opinion is that it kind of seems to me that it's a really interesting question, actually. I mean, now that you you put it into words, why is someone like me, which again, I really don't think I'm the only one, why is someone like me, I turn on, I hear this AI talking to me or whatever, and then my immediate gut reaction is I feel uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable. It's not like it was like, hey, Corey, like, take off your shirt or something like that. Like, no, it's like, hey, how's it going? Are you getting ready to do your podcast? Or how did you get it set up? Okay. It's like, that's it. Like, that's all it is. But it's still, I couldn't help but feel like my skin crawled a little bit. And that's a really interesting emotion to like dissect. Well, then why? Like, why do you feel like that? And I think there's a lot of layers to it, but I think the biggest three for me is kind of goes in depth. I think like the very surface level is like the whole Terminator thing. Terminator, Skynet, Doomsday. I think that's I would hope that most rational people don't expect that to that's not their immediate gut impulse. If that is, like, you watch too many movies and you need to calm down. But I imagine, what was the second layer? It was the second layer was I need to ask my AI to remember it for me. It was kind of like that kind of it's like the uncanny valley. Like when like why dolls are scary. It's like when something is like looks really human but it's like not quite there. Like the closer and closer you get, if human, like, people can detect like the slightest difference, like the slightest change, like if the eyes are too far apart or the smile isn't quite right or something. Like people can like like you might not consciously notice it, but like you subconsciously do, and that's what renders that kind of uncomfortable feeling. So I think that there's a good chance that is potentially at play here. I can't really dissect the voice well enough, like to be able to pinpoint what exactly that is generating that kind of uncanny valley feeling. But there's a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they every year, right? They keep minimizing that gap to the
Yep.
point where it's like we are going to be fully convincing people that these are 100% real and there's indistinguishable difference. So I think that if that is the case, it won't be for long. And so I think the third and most profound reason, which I think is kind of what you're touching on, I think the easiest way I could describe it is like this, right? Imagine you are going to the gym and you go through that experience of you go to the gym, you do your 4 sets, and you're lifting, and you're sweating, you're drinking your Powerade or whatever, you're bench press and squats, and I mean, yeah, you're putting yourself through this. You're taking an hour out of your day. You're committing to self improvement or whatever. You get on the treadmill. You got to run 2 miles, but you're at 1 mile and you're dying, but you're just like, no, I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna improve. Blah 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 blah. You have to go through a whole ass journey to make it through that gym session to try and improve yourself. And so that way it's that way a month from now or whatever, you look in the mirror and you can see that you lost 2 pounds. Good for you. It's like what I'm saying is, right, you have that whole experience. Now imagine if 10, 20, 30 years from now or whatever, they find a cure to obesity or whatever. They just find it all, they can condense it into a magical pill. It's like you just take this once a day and it, like, I don't know, stabilizes your body or whatever at like the healthy rate of, I don't know, what did it be for me, like 160 pounds, 165 or something like that. And it just does that for you automatically. And now you can eat whatever you want. It's just magic or whatever. I don't know. We don't need to get into the specifics of how that dream scenario works. But the point is, right, is let's say they come out with that. So like the gym is like literally no longer necessary, like objectively in terms of
Yeah.
human like evolution. You no longer have to go through that experience. And it's like smarter for you not to do that now. That's an hour of your day that you're saving that you could be doing more productive tasks with, like, economy or relationships or whatever. You have to ask yourself, would you do it? Um, But I just like with you talking about like the kids at the dinner table or whatever, it's kind of like the same thing because it's hard for me. It's such a hypothetical. Like I'm painting a picture that's a fantasy scenario that's 10, 20 years from now. But you'd have to ask yourself, what would be the other consequences of that happening that we can't even begin to fathom yet? Because I don't know, humans used to be something for so long, and we used to have like the things that we used to do, and through the rapid cascading effects of just technology, um, genetic power, nuclear power, internet, technology, AI now, with all of these different things happening, we're slowly like the consequence of making our lives easier and easier and easier and easier. While it does maximize the amount of like time we get on this earth and the amount of options that we have to do with our life, it does take away the the grind. It takes away the effort that was required to do certain things before. And the problem with that is that sometimes when you take away the grind, you take away the effort. I know this, right? If you, I've played a lot of Ark Survival Evolved, uh, you play that game and you tame a dinosaur that took you like 30 hours to tame like one dinosaur on a 1x server or whatever. That thing is your baby. You name it like Kitten Muffles or something, and that thing is your baby. If anything happens to that dinosaur, you're gonna lose your shit because you spent 30 hours of your life taming it or something like that. Like your tribe was like cycling on and off the server. I know, like a Giganotosaurus or something. So like you genuinely care about it because it took 30 hours. If that same dinosaur took 3 minutes because you're playing on a custom server with rates turned up times 100 or something, and you just feed it like one prime meat and then you immediately have a bitchin' dinosaur, you don't really care about it. I think it's through the time investment and through manual labor that you build up an appreciation for something. And so I don't know. That's kind of like, to me, the ultimate culmination of everything I'm saying. All of this AI, all of these tools, they're fantastic and they're opening up so many doors for all of us, but we're losing something in that process. We're losing the journey that it would have normally taken to do a lot of these things. And I think overall, losing that journey is a bad thing for the human race. Um, Now there's always going to be like winners out there, right? There's always going to be winners like you or like some of the alpha males or go-getters, like these kind of entrepreneurs. There's always going to be those types of people that have like that spirit to conquer and to self-improve and to do something. So even if something makes their life easier, they will seek out challenge intentionally. But I would argue that for the vast majority of the human race, that is not going to be the choice that they make. The vast majority of the time, I think people, if they see an out, they are then going to take that because they're seeking a way to alleviate pain, not add on pain. I think the amount of people that exist that intentionally seek out pain because they understand the value of it and what it does for their character, that's a very small percentage of people. And most people actively seek out comfort, distractions, shortcuts, things like that. And I think that's what AI is doing. So I'm not anti AI. Like I'd like to think that I'm one of those small percentage people that I just described, where it's like, oh, if you give me AI, I'm gonna build an empire with it because I'm not gonna use it to make my life simpler. I'm just gonna use it to like multiply my productivity times whatever. Um, yeah. Anyways, that's my
A
tangent
few things
on.
to say about it.
Yeah.
So first, I'll kind of respond to the last thing you
Sure.
said here. Well, the idea, at least with a lot of technology and a lot of stuff like that, like why would someone justify ordering their groceries or whatever? Why
Sure.
ordering their groceries like delivered? Why do I do that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that rational in my mind as well? The less I do of that shopping and that grind of it, the more
Yeah.
time I'm gonna have to do with what I want to actually do, right? Which I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you have the same thing. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I want to free up as much time as I can to do what I want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I feel like the issue with the majority of people is that they don't know what they want to do, right? And that's just kind of a part of the human experience. Like, everyone is going to have an answer, like, you hear the generic answer, I want to travel the world or I want to do whatever. Like, these
Mm-hmm.
kind of things, right? Or I want to be a singer or whatever. Like, you hear these kind of things, but when someone's actually given a moment where, hey, go ahead, do it now
Yeah.
because you have free time.
Look, the
No one
stage is
actually,
open.
like a lot of people.
It's bar night or whatever. The stage is open. Open mic. Get up there. Go be a singer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People don't do that. Like,
No.
just don't do that. All right. So this is, I
Yeah.
think it's not like, maybe it's not necessarily willpower and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just that they don't actually know what they want. It's just an answer that they've had since they were a kid or whatever it is, and they stuck with it. I want to be a singer or whatever it is, right? It's not like something that they actually wanted. And in truth, most people don't know what they want, right? Like, I know some things that I want, but I don't know exactly you know what I'm saying? Because it's a super hard question to answer, right? But I'll kind of talk a bit about your other point of like,
Sure.
well, the kind of why that grind is necessary. I completely agree with you that it is necessary, right? But I will like add to your fantasy scenario, right?
Okay.
So,
yeah.
First, like, why do we grind, right? It's because like, why do I do it? Why do I seek out challenge and all of that? Because without it, I don't have the same self-confidence about myself. I don't have the same kind of mental sharpness that I'm looking for to be able to deal with situations, with things. If I'm just sitting here and I'm relaxed or whatever it is, right? It's not,
Yeah.
I'm not the same. I'm not as focused and happy and kind of understanding of life and aware and able to help the people around me and all of that. I just feel like I need to stay sharp as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
But imagine this. Imagine that if you have that, you talked about the gym example, and you have the pill, and that pill makes you like the perfect weight or whatever it is. You take another pill, it makes you like jacked up, and you're
Customize
amazing,
your
right?
body. Yeah.
Exactly. But imagine there's a third pill you can take, and it does exactly the same effects as going to the gym and doing the grind and all that, it gives you that feeling that you have after running the extra mile and putting in the 6 extra hours or whatever it is,
It
right?
gives you the feeling
Then
like you worked hard, but without actually doing it.
without actually doing anything, but it gives you the same effects of it, right? Just like how that pill magically made you jacked and all that kind of stuff. The other pill is just gonna magically give you those like positive feelings and the confidence and all that kind of stuff, right? Then would not doing things and not running the extra mile, not going to the gym really be a consequence, right? Or in my opinion, I don't think so, because that would be objectively the best way to do it. It will be stupid to go and do all that. It's like if I wanted to, I don't know, go to Florida or whatever it is, and I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna take a horse, right? Well, I'm sure it's like there's more grind than whatever it is, but I'd be dumb not to drive or take a flight or whatever it is at the moment. It's just not worth it, right? And if you can get to that same result that you're describing here with like a pill or whatever it is, and there's truly no consequences, then that will be the ideal magical scenario. Now, I'm not saying that again, that's hypothetical, so I'm not saying that any of that is going to exist, right? Theoretically, it could. Like, there's no reason, like physical reason, I guess, that it couldn't exist, at least to my limited knowledge of these kind of things, right? But if it does exist, then of course I'm going to do that. Of course I'm going to take these. Of course I'm going to do all that. Why wouldn't I, right? It'll be stupid not to. If there is no consequences, if that's the best option, then of course I will. And that's the thing. Like, you can... I've recently rewatched the movie WALL-E, right? With cleaning robot
there you
and all
go.
that, right? Yeah, so you remember the people in space, right?
Oh,
they're just sitting there.
See, that's what I'm saying. We're moving towards that, you know?
Yeah, but... ideally, the future that I want or that I'm thinking of, right, is that all the necessities and the things that sustain us and make us kind of happy or have that feeling that we seek, that feeling of satisfaction and kind of like being satisfied with life generally, if all of that is fulfilled by AI and we're just left to live our lives without having to do all these things, right? Because I know for a fact if I have the same feeling that I have working hard or whatever it is without working hard, I probably won't, right? It is what it is, because at the end of the day, we're just creatures that work hormones and all that kind of stuff, and we always do something for a reason, right? And if there isn't a reason to do it, then we're not going to. And if AI can't take care of these things, if no one has to go collect the garbage or whatever it is because it's collected, if no one has to work in like water treatments centers and all that because AI is taking care of that, if no one has to be a farmer, no one's going to do these things, right? And as long as the whole ecosystem is being taken care of by AI, then we just don't need to do any of that, because like groceries are there, we can just grab it. Everything is there, right? I'm sure that's going to have bad consequences because, again, as you said, and as we were talking about, people want to be better than each other. And that comparison is very important to a lot of us, right? We want to, hey, I want that nicer, faster car because whoever, that's important to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And that would, in theory, be eliminated. That's kind of like the universal basic income on steroids, basically, is what I'm describing.
Something would have to replace it, like if we're all on the same playing field, something, maybe it turns into a Ready Player One like world where we're all hooked up in AR or VR or something like that. It's all about the scoreboard or something, and that becomes the new currency of the world. But you see, then, I mean, I would say that I would agree with you in a sense that, but even then, that's a better alternative to what we have now, right? As long as if everybody's like physical needs are taken care of, like essentially, if collectively on the human race, let me pull it up in here real quick. I like to refer to it a lot. It would be Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If we can solve physiological needs and safety needs on a worldwide scale, which I believe that's essentially what you're saying. We can handle air, water, food, shelter, sleeping, clothing, security, resources, health, etc. Like we can secure that on a worldwide basis. Then it frees up the rest of the rest of the world's like creative pursuits to pursue love, self-esteem, and self-actualization. We can just focus on that as a race. So in like best case scenario, if AI comes in and solves those the other things for us, then it does have the potential to essentially like enlighten the human race and provide us like more time to pursue more interesting like creative pursuits of self-fulfillment in our lives um on an unprecedented scale ever seen in like evolution, however, I think that it's there's that's like half side, and I'm an optimist, so I do choose to believe that hopefully that's what we can get to, right? Half cup half full. But there's also the cup half empty version of what I just said, where we turn into like a capitalist dystopia nightmare future, where big corporations like Amazon and Google or whatever, they own like the Ready Player One, and they've successfully converted like built a system in which this universal income or whatever that everybody has, they're able to like ensure that like they're siphoning X amount of it every month with all of the subscription fees that they have in their virtual sandbox that we're all plugged into all the time because there's nothing else to do. We don't have jobs. We just collect money and then go pursue self-actualization in a digital world where it doesn't cost that much resources. And then we're all sacrificing our universal income to make sure that we're getting the right armor or clothing or house or mounts or cars or whatever is in this future game, and all of those people that you described, right? The people who it's not like a lack of motivation, it's just that they don't know what, like they don't know what they want to be, they don't know who they want to be, they don't know what they want to do with their lives. I feel like that system right there is a perfect like spider's web. It's a perfect trap to like lure them in and to like hook them up to all the dopamine cables and milk them until they're bones, like that's it. um yeah,
But what
that's
is the
yeah.
resource that you're trying to extract from these people? If you don't need them to work, like what is special about a random person if AI
Yeah.
can do everything? Like, well, what are they gonna get from you? Because at
Well,
the
I
moment they're fighting
yeah.
for your attention,
Yeah.
they're fighting for your time, and all things that they're able to successfully convert into like or monetize,
Yeah.
convert into money, right? Or some sort of value, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't need you for any of that stuff, you're not valuable because AI is doing everything. Then what are they extracting you? Unless it's like a Matrix situation where you're like literally hooked up to
No,
something
no,
and
no,
all
no.
that. I don't think so.
I was talking more along the lines of I'm assuming, right, it'd still be capitalism or something. So I'm assuming like Amazon Game Studios and Google and Microsoft, they all have like these big MMOs or something. It's like they'd still, in a sense that, and I would also presume if there was universal income, right, like you would still get X amount of money for like extra. I would presume. We don't have universal income, so I don't know how it would work. I'm just talking out of my ass here. I would believe that like they would cover all the essentials for you, but then like everybody would have like a monthly allowance of some kind. So the companies would be fighting over that allowance. Who's to say, do I want to go play Amazon's MMO or Microsoft's MMO or OpenAI's MMO or whatever, like whose do I want to play? So there'd still be combat over that. And so they would be predatory in like their marketing practices and trying, it's like, there's so many conversations about this. Like, I watch Asmongold all the time as well. And there's conversations about like predatory business practices in MMO. It's all about like retention time. This is why like so many AAA games are failing right now, is because they focus way more on like maximizing the retention of their player base and making sure that there's constantly they're just you're playing them, you're trapped, time gating certain things and making sure like you're logging in every single day, always online bullshit. Um, and it's driving a lot of people away, which is why they're turning to indie games like us. Check out Conquest of Eldinar. Um, got him. Um, but yeah, I mean, in the future, like, does my painting make sense, or am I missing a
Yeah,
piece?
but the thing is, like, the future I'm thinking of is
Mm.
even past that, beyond that,
Oh,
right?
you're thinking
Because
even further.
like the future that I'm thinking of is like money is not even an important concept anymore. It's not like there
Oh,
is limited like amount of Doritos or whatever, and you just kind of like have to buy it for them to be able to produce more. You can just get whatever you want. You can get whatever car you want. There's just enough resources and enough like completely
So you
free
just
labor
walk
or
into a
whatever it
gas
is.
station and be like, "Oh, Doritos." I just grab 3 bags off the shelf and then walk out.
Yeah, except you don't need to walk because you just teleport or something. But yeah.
I'm in my floating hovering chair. I'm like 400 pounds. I float in like freaking Baron Harkonnen from Dune and just like, I'll
Only if
take
you don't
4
take your diet,
Doritos,
though.
please. Yeah, what?
Not only if you don't take your like fit pill or whatever, but otherwise you'll be fit. All right. So at that point, like there is nothing to it's beyond universal basic income or whatever it is. It is just like everyone can get anything at any point or whatever it is. Again, this is super hypothetical, right? But this is at least where if we keep progressing with AI, I feel like that's the goal, right? If there is nothing to compete on, then we're all in this level playing field or whatever it is, right? And I just don't know what that future would look like because again, we're in at face like at just base level, we're getting closer towards that, but at the same time, we cannot forget that these AIs, like the AI models and all of that, are being controlled by a few entities. It's not by everyone. And I respect the open source community and all that. That's the work that's being done in that side of the world as well.
Yeah.
And it is competitive. It's pretty competitive, but you cannot even like compare the amount of resources that's being dumped into that versus that. So of course the thing with or the product that has so much more backing and resources is going to be objectively better in the long term. But anyways, it's fun to talk about these kind of things, but there is just no way that we'll even get close to predicting what's going to happen with any of that. All right. It is very difficult at the moment.
Yeah, it keeps changing. Yeah.
I am glad that we're a part of it, We're young enough that we'll be able to see a nice chunk of this revolution and kind of see where it's going here. I think it'll make our lives a lot easier. The things that we have, as much as we love to talk about the disadvantages as human beings of things, right? The fact that you can just pull out your phone and you can order almost anything in the whole planet up to your house, right?
It's
if you want to ride, you can get a ride. Yes. If you want to call anyone, right? Because like when I talk to my parents and they tell me about like how they couldn't call their parents like when they were younger or whatever it is, and when they traveled, like there was even when options existed, like talking on the phone, it was like extremely expensive and accessible and all of that, And now I can just with fingertip just call my dad and like see his face live and all that kind of stuff very easily. And we're very fortunate to have a lot of the things that we're having. But at the same time, I understand that we're not happy about the consequences. We're as a race, we're always trying to improve things, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's at least the trend that we've been seeing that it's been 90% positives and 10% negatives, at least. In my
There's
opinion.
always the edge cases. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm assuming I'm optimistic enough to think that AI is gonna head towards that direction, and we're gonna see positive things. I don't.
Yeah.
We're all very, very aware and scared about Terminator and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think I would like to think that we're smart enough to be able to avoid it.
I'll tell you what.
These kind of theories.
Tell you what. That trending clip. You want to solve half the world's problems, at least in the U.S.
Yeah.
You solve the male loneliness epidemic. You solve that. You want to stop like dudes from doing like crazy, simp shit or whatever. You want to stop all that. You solve the male loneliness epidemic. So I saw that viral clip or whatever where like the I don't know, CEO of Bumble or something, which is, you're a nice, young married man, so you don't know what it's like to be on the dating scene. But did you see that clip?
I have not, no.
Okay, so there's a clip of her and she's talking about how like everybody laughed at her. She's like, I'm not joking. I'm being serious. She was talking about how she, kind of like what you were saying, way back at the earlier the conversation when we talked about how like my AI would go talk to other people's, like other of my friends' AIs to collect opinions and then bring them back to me. So she was talking about how like there's literally a future here where like the dating services, the apps or whatever, because I mean, me personally, I don't think they work at all. Maybe they work for like 5% of dudes, if that. Most dudes though are
Interesting.
absolutely thrown to the wolves when it comes to the dating apps. But
Mm.
she talked about how like you'll choose all your preferences and stuff in the dating profile or whatever, and like the app will understand you, Bumble or whatever, and then it will go out. Your AI avatar will then go out and date every other AI avatar in the area, and then it will come back to you and it'd be like, okay, these are the three people that you should meet based off of that.
Mm.
So it's like
Yeah.
your AIs date the girls' AIs or whatever, and then it gives you like conclusive results or whatever based on it. And like so, it would just completely remove the middleman of like doing all the swiping and the messaging and all this stuff, and it would like have much more like quick and conclusive results. Um, that's crazy to me. Like I'd have to see it in action before I'm willing to like believe that, because I don't know. Love is a really complicated, tricky thing. And I bet you some people would not just like not go for this. They would refuse. But which I'd have to like see the specifics, if you get what I'm saying. Like I need to see it in action before I'm willing to like bet on it and be like, oh my God, this is going to change the human race. But I think, yeah, helping some dudes get some girlfriends would be a pretty goddamn nice thing for the U.S. in whole. That could be a useful tool.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I don't know if I like necessarily believe or I mean I believe the kind of statistic or whatever, but I don't know if I agree with it that would solve like half the problems or whatever it is. Maybe that's a bit extreme because I believe like that love and all that is just like it's a small piece of the equation. I think that is more of a consequence or a symptom than it is the base, if that makes any sense, right? As I don't think it's the base of the problem. It's a consequence, right? It's a part of the problem. It's a symptom, but it's not the actual issue. I couldn't tell you what the actual issue is, right? But I don't think it's that. I just think that like it's harder than ever to be valuable in society, right? Back in the day or whatever it is, if you a lot of like cause communities were much smaller, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you there is a lot more of a potential to be the best blacksmith in town or whatever,
Yeah.
Because
we're talking about a fantasy village now. Yeah.
Or fantasy village. There you go. Yes.
Okay.
So it's not even fantasy village. I'm talking like a couple hundred years ago, or whatever it is, right? Otherwise, like, oh, I'm gonna have to take my horse and travel for like 17 hours to find another blacksmith or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But now it's like much harder to. It's okay. Actually, compare.
So what you're saying are most people are useless. Is what you're saying.
They're not as valuable as this. Actually, I give you a great example. When I was, or well, both of us were kids, right? And we would play like 2-player games or whatever, right? Co-op games, and you play a split screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to be like the best in your group, right? I'm like, oh, I kick people's asses, right? But then you started playing online, and that kind of got more popular or whatever it is, and you're nothing. Like you might be decent or whatever it is, but there's always 700,000 people that are way better than you or whatever it is. Exaggeration, but you get the point.
That was me with Smash Bros.
I feel like
when I was a kid,
there you go.
Dominated every kid in the neighborhood or whatever at Smash Bros. Nobody could beat me. Then I grew up and I went to like high school and all that. And I started playing with like other like bigger demographic of people on Smash Bros. And I had some serious competition all of a sudden. I was like, hey, that's like my thing. I'm supposed to be the best Smash Bros. Player. Now all of you guys are stepping on my shit. Like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Young
exactly.
Link, by the way.
And another example is like if you like stay in a small town or whatever it is, right? It feels different when you're walking around. You feel like, oh, it's not like a lot of people, so I'm valuable. I'm one of these people or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm even like a medium-sized place or whatever it is. But I go to like, whenever I go to New York City and I just walk around, like you just feel like you're nothing, if that makes sense. Like you just feel like you're one of so many people. You see just thousands, tens of thousands of people every day, right? And I think it is that kind of globalization. I think it's a consequence of that people are, well, they're not able to earn value as much as they can, right? And like even value obviously is not necessarily money or whatever it is, but even if we look at it from that lens, then still the same thing, right? People were able to buy houses and have decent jobs and do all that kind of stuff like some
Hmm.
years ago, and that's not that case anymore. And just in any other aspects of being good at something or whatever it is, well, why would I even try that? Like, why would I try to really get really good at making tables or whatever it is? Because everyone's just gonna buy from IKEA. Why would I get really good at
Yeah.
making sandwiches? Everyone's just gonna go to Subway or whatever it is. So there
Mm.
isn't like you're not you don't have an opportunity to get good at something because everything is just oversaturated at the moment. And I think that's the base of the problem. That loneliness is just a symptom of that problem. It's not necessarily that, hey, if uh all these lonely men have girlfriends or whatever it is, like this everything is solved and we're great or whatever it is. Because I'm sure you've seen people with girlfriends or whatever, and it's just they're not happy. They're not
Oh,
really,
sure. Yeah. No.
and they do, and they commit crazy acts as well while having girlfriends and wives or whatever it is. It's not like that's the prevention. So I don't know. I don't think
Hmm.
that's necessarily a cure. But to talk about the dating thing or
Sure.
whatever it is, I do definitely think that is possible, and that would be a good solution, right? Is
Yeah.
anything to be able to kind of speed up that matching. And I'm sure it's not going to be 100% accurate because
Hmm.
your AI or whatever is not never going to be you, but
Yeah.
it is going, you want to give people as best of a tool as possible, right?
Yeah.
And Tinder and Bumble or whatever it is not necessarily the best tool at the moment because it's very simplistic. You're talking to people
Hmm.
based on a couple pictures and a description or whatever it is, right? And that's
Yeah.
it's more of like I guess a quantity game. It's built to be that way because it's very easy to just keep swiping and keep going or whatever it is.
Hmm.
So it's just like, hey, I'm gonna talk to as many people as possible, whatever it is, and that's how I'm gonna find a person or whatever, right? Because it's quantity at this point because you don't have enough information about a single person because it's not like the movie. It's not like I'm gonna look at someone's picture and read their description or whatever, and like, oh my god, I fell in love with this person or whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough information to have that feeling, anyways, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so
here's my hot take here though
go
is
for it.
the problem with this is uh, me being one of them, right? Is I feel like these corporations, I don't know, Tinder or Hinge or Bumble or whatever, that's like the big three, I think. I don't know. There's probably more. Um, let's be honest here. They make millions of dollars probably a day, if not tens of millions of dollars a day, preying on male loneliness. Like absolutely. Um, that hopium that you get from like maybe it's just one more swipe, maybe it's just one more swipe or whatever. That could be my wife or whatever. It is just two more swipes away, and you just keep going and going, 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 and you're spent. Oh, but what if she liked me and I didn't, and I missed her? You know, I better pay the $50 subscription fee or whatever so I can make sure I see if she likes me or not. And oh, it's gonna put me to the front of the queue, or I'm gonna get a chance to message her in advance. You know, it's like all these little subscription services and things that they sell. Um, they are preying. Do you think that they make a lot of money? You think girls pay for Tinder? I don't think so. Do you think they make
I
a
know some girls that pay for
maybe
Tinder.
some, but I bet I would be willing to bet that the vast majority of their money making demographic is young single men, which there are a lot of.
Yeah, but
Um,
again, if it was just men or whatever it is, then they wouldn't be able to make any money because if women weren't there as an example, then
oh,
men
they're
wouldn't go
there,
on
but
there, right?
that's what I'm saying. Though. It's
So
hopium.
I think it's
It's hopium.
I think it's both sides. So I don't think it's just like a men loneliness problem. I think it's just a loneliness problem in general that
Oh
we've
yeah, no, I'm
been
not.
happening.
I'm not saying that. Oh, girls are walking in sunshine and rainbows and they have all the men they want. Meanwhile, guys are suffering. I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
What I am saying, because I can't really speak for a women's perspective. I'm sure
of
they
course.
have many valuable insights. I can only speak from personal experience, which is the men's side of thing. And the men's side of thing currently is they prey upon your hopium and they wait for you, to get you to sub and to just keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, and then months will go by with no results. And so I'm
Yeah.
saying the issue with this AI thing is on paper it sounds really effective, but if it
Hmm.
is, it, it's weird. It's why I don't trust these apps, right? Because your business model is you kind of want me to fail and want me to be alone. Because if I get on your app in one day on the free service and then immediately find a girlfriend and then boom, now I'm off. You had me in and out the door before I saw a single ad, before I gave you a single dollar. Now, that's what you're pitching to me. But you don't actually want to fulfill that pitch. It's like a predatory kind of your interests, which is pleasing your stockholders or whatever, your interests don't actually align with my interests. It suits your interests better to screw me over. So, but I don't know. I don't hear people talk about this. And so I sit here and I hear this AI thing and I sit here and I go, I don't think it's going to be any different than the way it is right now. I don't think it's going to solve anything because it's not in their best interest to solve anything in this. If they solve the male loneliness epidemic or whatever, then they just shot their business in the knee and they're losing out on millions of dollars a month or whatever because they saved us all. Like how do you get what I'm saying?
Let's kind of roll back the clock a little bit.
Sure.
And think about Kodak, right? Remember the company Kodak? They make cameras, right?
Yeah.
So they had the kind of new technology. They were the first to master the technology of digital cameras, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were just like, oh, people like the film cameras. We're making a lot more money because we're selling film and we're selling all of this, right? So
Mm-hmm.
why would we want to push digital cameras? That's gonna eat into our business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, someone else is gonna come and find a way to monetize the better solution, right? And that's what I believe in this situation. Even if they're like, oh, well, we have this technology, but we don't want to use it or whatever it is, someone is going to find a way to do that. If someone is able to create a technology that's so amazing or whatever it is, right, they can have a different pay model. Hey, we're guaranteeing like almost 100% that we're going to find you someone amazing, right? But you're going to have to
I'd pay it immediately. Oh, yeah. Sign me up. $50. Sure. Go ahead.
No, it'd be like $35 for the rest of your life a month, right? I feel like a lot of people would pay that still worth it, right?
What? Crazy. No, $35 for the rest of my life? Get out of here.
Crazy, right? But I'm just saying, if I guarantee 100% that tomorrow I'm gonna find you someone that you're gonna be so happy with. That's this person you're gonna be with the rest of their life, right? And I'm giving you, hey, if we don't find that person, money back guarantee. And if you ever break up, you will stop. You gotta stop paying. So as long as you're in that relationship, right, then you keep paying.
Right? Okay, you're already gonna have to pay to be in the relationship. Let's be honest. But I have to pay a literal subscription fee to be in a relationship.
Is she working for them? Example.
She's gonna be an inside agent. She's working for Tinder. The entire relationship is a lie.
Okay, listen.
She's just trying to keep you subscribed.
This sounds like an escort service, which is not what I'm trying to describe.
Exactly.
No, I'm giving an example. Right? That's just a random example of like, here's how you can monetize it. That I'm sure a lot of people will pay that. But my point is, if there's a better solution, someone's gonna pay. Taxis. After Uber came, that situation was pretty sensitive and taxi drivers were accepting of Uber drivers and Uber as an idea, right? Because now the barrier of entry to be a driver and drive people around is not as high as it used to be with taxis. But at the end of the day, the better service is going to win. And there's always a way to monetize almost anything is what we've seen in the past years with that. So I don't know. I believe something like that. There's definitely going to be a way to monetize it, and it's either these companies are gonna jump on it, or it's just gonna be some startup that's gonna get them out the way. We've seen that so many times.
Yeah.
Again, Blockbuster, Netflix. There's so many examples of that. So I think if that technology exists, if we're able to do that, even if they don't have the incentive with the current monetization model, another monetization model is gonna be born. To
always
be able to aid that. If you are, if anyone is trying to start a startup, like an AI startup for dating and all that, please don't charge people a subscription service for the rest of their life. I was just kidding. Don't take me seriously.
They might.
Please don't. This was not me giving you ideas. All I'm trying to say is be nice to people. There's a lot of lonely people out there. That need to meet other people.
Yeah. Well, I think that about does it for our time on this one. Did you have any closing ideas or remarks?
No, just where I don't know yet if we're all going to have better lives or we're all. I'm still trying to figure it out. So yeah, we'll see in the next few years.
At the end of the day, right? It all comes down to it's just a tool, right? Just like like dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, right? It's just an animal. That's it. It's always the people. It's up to the people and their choices whether or not they want to take the opportunities in front of them and either treat them with humility and grace or completely take advantage of it and blow it up. It's like it's always going to come out of people. AI might as well be dinosaurs, right? Which is why keep the Jurassic Park going, the Jurassic Park franchise going. I want part 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. I want to be dying on my deathbed and I want to be watching Jurassic Park 60. Okay, let's go.
Fair
Best
enough.
franchise ever. I mean, there's a T-Rex on my wall. So yeah.